Welcome in. It is day 196, and you're speaking to the Meeples Champion. And today we're going to be jumping into another one of those PAX East games I picked up. You know, the exciting part about PAX East, for me, this is my local big convention. I've gone for 7 years in a row. It's one of those conventions that when you go, you're excited to see the games, the setups of the tournaments, all of this stuff. But there's also the excitement for the original games that are there, for whether it's somebody who is a smaller vendor from the local area or somebody who's bigger from this country or another whose game has not been seen really in stores online yet, and you have a chance to be one of the first ones in, whether that's to play it or to play and buy it. Well, I try my best to look for one of those games every year. I always pick up a game that there's no chance if you weren't at this convention or one of the big conventions that year that you would know what the game was. And it gives me a chance to be able to bring something to my group that's a little different. One of my first years there, I want to say it was year 2, I picked up this game that, I don't know why, I think I was just so excited to be there, and I was so excited to finally find somebody who had an original game that I just bought it. And it was like the instant I got to the house and I pulled out all the games I was excited to play, and then the new one, that game was the one that I was just like, why did I buy this? Why is this on my shelf? I only cracked it open today, almost 6 years later, to take pictures, to set it up, to try it out, and to be able to give a review on this. But, well, we'll see where it is. The game is Mr. Game. The concept of the game is truly interpretation. It's an old school setup of rolling dice and multiple colors and moving towards the center, and the first one there wins. I say that, but the instructions actually don't specify a win. I see no win condition technically there. The way the game is played is that you get to interpret the cards and the rules. So you can mess with people during the game. And it's essentially well, I read it this way, or I'm going to do this, and you can make it difficult for players. So as the guy told me when I was talking to him about the game, he said, oh, well, when you're playing, if you want, you can take your turn, grab the dice, throw them out the window, and now the next player, in order to go, has to run outside and grab those dice, because our game is supposed to be chaos. Great idea, but maybe you need to have some controlled chaos, because it just doesn't have anything for me for fun, unless you're playing with a bunch of people who just don't really like games. When I cracked it open and I looked it over today, there's multiple colored cards. You have the ability for movement. You roll 2 dice. You pick one of them. That's your movement amount. It just seems lame to me. It doesn't feel like a game. It almost feels like you're a teacher and you're dealing with a bunch of kids. And each player has to deal with the chaos of a bunch of kids who don't want to pay attention to the rules, and they're going to do what they want to do, and you're trying to control them as best you can. And when it's your turn, you just give up and you join the chaos. And I guess if you're into that, that's great. But I think that the majority of the people watching my videos, they want a real game with substance, and I just don't think this game is anything I would ever recommend to one of you guys. That being said, let's jump in. Let's check our categories, see where this lands. When it comes to the art, absolutely no. This is a horrible cover. It's just the name of the game on purple. You open it up, and the cover's better than the inside of the game. It's just blocks of color. It feels like, the board almost feels like it's halfway through to making Candyland. Like, we've put the color down, we just forgot to make any of the pictures. There's no theme here, there's no fun here, there's no good art here. It's a giant thumbs down. Components. When it comes to those components, I mean, I guess the little people and the dice are fine, but the cards, they're low grade. I could tell when I picked them up, I was like, these cards are at risk of tearing. Like, this is not a good card. I didn't like it at all. I was a massive thumbs down on that. I don't like it. The price. So the price is I have no idea. I want to say I paid 40 for this when I picked it up, but that was 6 years ago. This is not in stores. This is not online. This is not something you're ever going to find. And it's not worth it. It's not worth getting it for free. You're never going to play it. It just takes up space. Thumbs down. Your difficulty. The difficulty is having to learn and play the game when there's no real rules and there's no real game. The difficulty is that an expert, an experienced player will look at this game and laugh like, no, I'm not doing that. A beginner will be like, I wanted to play a game. I didn't want to play whatever this is. And a kid, I guess kids could enjoy it, but even them, I feel like they're going to go like, well, what are we doing? It doesn't have any direction. It's a big thumbs down. Replayability. If you're not going to play it once, you're not going to play it twice. Like, this is not a one-time play. Just don't. Big thumbs down. When it comes to those routes to victory, keys to victory, does this have any way of victory? I didn't even see how to win the game. There's, I guess, other play styles in it, but in the main book for the main game, there is no win condition. And even if there was, it's just random. You're just doing what you want to do. To me, that doesn't have any keys to victory. That's exactly what this title is. It's chaos. No thank you. Thumbs down. Is the game unique? You'd think that with as many thumbs downs as it would get, that you'd go, well, it's going to get the unique because what else is as bad as this? There may not be games as bad as this, but the concept of what this does, I mean, ignoring the interpret the rules things. I mean, every game you can interpret the rules. That's home rules. You know, when you play Monopoly and you decide to put money on free parking, you could call that interpretation of the rules because you've decided to home rule it, that's a part of your game. There are games that people do that in. And so I can't look at that and say it's unique because it's now on paper, because it still isn't really directive enough to give anything. Otherwise, it's just a really, really, and this is amazing to say, lame version of Candyland. Candyland, to me, is not a game. It's predetermined when you shuffle the cards, put them together. But at least there's a theme there. There's not even a theme here. There's nothing. So it's a big thumbs down on unique. It's not unique. It's just a very bad version of everything it thinks it's doing. Overall, what do I think? Never buy this game. Do not drop a cent on this game. If people say, we have this game, we want you to play with us, don't. I wouldn't go near this game. If you ask me, what do I want to do with my copy? This copy got pulled out, unwrapped, set up, checked out, interpreted for me to do a review. It's going right in a stack, and it's going right out the door. I don't want this in my house anymore. It's sat on my shelf for years unplayed because it was so little interest from the day I bought it that it was still in its wrapping, and I'm not going to ever play it. It's going to be sent right to a Savers, or I'll throw it at a bunch of games in like a very cheap amount of money online. I don't want this in my house anymore, and I don't want any of my viewers to go getting a game like this. I appreciate that somebody took the time and the effort to try to design this. And maybe they're not really a gamer game. Maybe they're more of a, we just like to have a lot of fun, and this allowed us to play a fun chaos style, and maybe that worked for them. When I went to the convention, they weren't set up with the board game section. They were this table in the video game section. So it was almost like they didn't even really think about the board game community. So I don't think they really represented, as both players and makers of games, the board game community. That's not an insult. That's just saying that there are people that are outside that. This is a party game, and I think they were part of the party game community, which is, to me, you can include that in the board game community at times, but they can also be very separate. And I think these were definitely a group of people that were separate. So maybe for the party gamers out there, they look at this game and it's perfect for them. But in my opinion, it's for a core gamer, for a person who enjoys a game with substance, it's not worth your time. Well, it has been day 196, and we've been talking about the game, Mr. Game. And you've been speaking to the Meeples Champion. Like, share, subscribe, and there will not be an Amazon link below for this, unfortunately. So Until next time, I'll talk to you tomorrow.